everybody, welcome back to another video. If you are new to our channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and go check out our Instagram pages where I post daily original photos of our life and updates on a lot of our animals we got going on here. So for today's video, today's gonna be another rat breeding and care video. The other videos that I've done have been doing really well, and it's been requested that I do another one. Now, I've already covered a lot of different topics with breeding rats, and so I was kind of trying to think of what to do next. We've covered a rat euthanization chamber for feeder rats. If you are feeding a collection like I am feeding a large snake collection. We have covered when it becomes financially feasible to breed your own rats versus purchasing. And I have also covered pairing up a male to females, what works for me, and then the timeline from when babies are born up until when you can expect them to be all the way up to small or medium rats. So we have kind of covered all that, and I'll link those videos down in the description below if you want to go check those out. But before we jump into what I'm going to cover today, I just heard some squeaks from one of the bins behind me, and one of our mamas just dropped a huge litter. So let's check that out. Wow, that mama dropped a enormous litter, and that I believe that is either her first or her second litter. I have to check on my cards that I keep track on. But yeah, I think that's only her first or second litter ever. So that is huge. I have to go in and count them in a little bit. I'll drop it on the screen below how many she had right now. But yeah, so for today's video. So a lot of people always ask, what size are rats? You know, are they small, medium, large? How do you know? Now, when I am determining the size of my rat, it goes by weight. Now, of course, you're gonna need to have some kind of scale. This is the scale I use to weigh out my rats as well as my snakes. And so to determine where your rats fall. Now, pinkies obviously are really easy. They're pink. They're usually somewhere between a newborn and usually 4 to 5 days old. That's pretty easy. And then depending on the size of your snake, you can kind of determine if they need like a fresh newborn or maybe like a 4 or 5 day old pink, because they are gonna vary in size. You're gonna have smaller pinks, you're gonna have bigger pinks. Now, fuzzies, I don't weigh those ones either. Usually after about a week, they will start to get hair. That is when you know they're a fuzzy. It's just barely a little bit of hair on them. They're just slightly bigger than a large pinky rat. You can tell their coloration is starting to come in. That is what you would consider a fuzzy. Now, a rat pup is gonna be somewhere around 14 days old, and that is just gonna have a little bit more hair. When you want to get to a weaned rat, this is gonna be dependent on your rats, because I have noticed that from our old supplier to what we raise, our weaned rats are slightly different in age and in size. So my rats are considered weaned at about 4 weeks old, and they are a little bit larger. So this is where you're gonna have to know what to feed your snake. Now, when I'm going off sizes, I'm actually looking at a card that I had from our old supplier. And as a guideline, I was going off of their weights for what they would consider a weaned, small, medium, large, extra large, or even a jumbo rat. So that is what I'm gonna be referring to, and that's kind of been my guideline as we've started breeding. So for a weaned rat, this is where you're gonna start wanting to use your scale, especially if you have an overproduction and you want to sell maybe to people in your community. That way you can label your rats as weaned, smalls, medium, and so forth. So for a weanling rat, that is going to be anywhere from 31 to approximately 50 grams. Now, with a weanling, sometimes they will get big enough to where they can be classified as a small. So you're gonna have to really look at the weights, look at the size of your rats and your breeding stock. our rats genetically seem to be a little bit bigger than what I've seen in most breeding racks. So for us, what some people would be considered a weanling is actually a small for us. We actually feed to a lot of our ball pythons as a small. So the next size up, a small according to this would be anywhere from 50 all the way up to 70 grams. And again, you're gonna have to look at the size and what you're feeding your snake. A medium would be anywhere from 90 upwards to 140 grams. Now, if you're feeding a ball python collection, the majority of the time, you are not gonna feed larger than a medium. Even for your 3,000 gram females, you may only feed a medium once a week or every other week. Now, again, this is what I do. If you feel differently and wanna feed your snakes differently, then that is totally up to you. Now, our old supplier, they used to do in between, so small, medium, medium, large. What they would consider a medium large would be 140 to 175 grams. A large would be 176 to 250 grams. And then an extra large would be anything over 250 grams. And those are gonna be any of your breeding adults. Jumbo rats or anything over 350 grams, and you're usually not gonna see that in any of your female rats. That's gonna be a large male. Yeah, if you have larger boas or larger pythons, then that might be something you want to grow up. But as far as what I have going on, I don't have anything large enough to be growing up my rats to that point. Usually, in order to get an extra large or a jumbo rat, you'd have to raise that rat up for 5 or 6 months. And another thing that I kind of wanted to show you today was how I keep track of my rack, my breeding females, all that sort of thing, kind of like my record keeping. Now, I do something similar to what I do for my ball pythons. I use the little 4x6 cards, and I kind of use color-coded cards so it's easier for me to keep track. So in this case, for my rats, I use yellow. And since we started, there's like one fly in here. Okay, so, and since we started from the very beginning, I bought a lot of my rats from our local pet shop, and we started from square one. We did not get our rats from anybody else. They were not breeding yet, so it took us a few months to get started. So in the beginning, I really kept track of our females' weights, so I knew when they were up to weight, when I put the male in, when the male needed to come out, when I started noticing babies actually being born, those type of things. And so what I tried to do, because obviously a lot of the rats look the same, is I would mark, if you can see, there's numbers on these tubs. And then at the top of the rack, it says rack 1 or rack 2, which is this one. And so what I did is each one of my cards, see if you can see it, if it'll focus, it says R1, R1, number 1, and then so forth. And so what I do is in rack 1 is where we keep all of our holdback females and our breeding females. And what we started doing in rack 2 is heirloom breeding. So our male will go into a tub with at least 3 females. I think some tubs have 2 females because we ended up having a female die. And so we've kept some back to make sure that we get 3 back in that tub. But so what I'll do is a male will go in with 3 females. After 3 weeks exactly, after exactly 21 days, that male is then moved into a different tub with 3 other females so he can start breeding with them. Typically within 5 to 7 days, those 3 females that he was with, what I will do is as I see them start getting more and more plump, like they look like they're gonna pop, what I will do is I will separate them out into their own tubs, and that is what is called heirloom breeding. So that minimizes the risk of having babies stolen. It minimizes stress on the rat and kind of gives them their own room and to do their own thing, and they don't have to worry about anybody else in the tub disturbing them. So I separate them out, so it's 1 in each tub, or sometimes what I will do, because I've had a couple rats where it does stress them out to separate them, so you kind of have to pay attention to your rack, is I will move all 3 from their tub over here into here. As soon as the first mother drops a litter, then I will take 2 out and move them down to the next one. And then I will keep doing that until each mother has their own tub with their own babies in it. And in the beginning, We didn't do this, and we had a lot of problems with the pregnant females trying to steal other babies from each other, and we were losing a lot of babies. So I think it was Jesse from Freedom Breeder. He was talking about our heirloom breeding, so we decided to try it out, and we have had great success with it. Now, these tubs are really big for one female and a bunch of babies, so we're actually going to be building a third rack with some Freedom Breeder tubs that are a little bit smaller, that it's going to be specifically for heirloom breeding. So you'll have to look out for that video here in the upcoming months, because we are going to have to expand our rat production because for one, we have way more snakes than we can feed at this point. I'm having to buy from our local supplier again. And we are going to be breeding for the first time this season. So we are going to have a lot of hatchlings come this spring. So we're going to up the amount of rats that we have and that we are producing in anticipation of hatchlings in the spring. So those are all things that are coming to our channel. So subscribe and wait for those videos, because that's going to be really interesting. So back to what I was saying. So each one of these tubs has 3 females. And then when those rats, or when their babies are weaned, those 3 females go back into the original tub they were in, and I will mark the dates and when they had their babies. So I give them at least 4 weeks off before I introduce the male to them. Now, in order to prolong the life of your females, to make sure they are producing babies for you as long as possible, after the mother, or after the weanlings are taken from the mother, you want to give her at least 4 weeks to recoup from having the babies, from milk production. Her body has had to go through a lot of work to produce those babies and to continuously produce milk for them. She's not going to be as plump and as fat as she was when she got those babies. So it's always important to put them back and give them at least 4 weeks off before you introduce the male to them. That is why we have always had at least 3 tubs with 3 females in each. That's why we had decided to start with 1 male and 9 females. So that way we can give each of our tubs with the females in it the adequate rest they need, so they are ready to produce again without any kind of ramifications. Now, real quick, before we close out this video, I wanted to talk about a few of the downfalls in breeding. Some of the things that I've noticed that happen that I think a lot of people don't talk about. And some of those things are, for one, we have lost a female that was pregnant. Now, I have no idea what happened to her. I think I've talked about this in another video, but she was very much pregnant. All of a sudden, I went into the tub the next day to check on them, because when I know my females are pregnant, I try to check twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. And she was gone. She was dead. I have no idea why. So again, we do not waste our rats, no matter if they pass away naturally or if we euthanize them. So we put her in the freezer for maybe a future date for one of our bigger snakes. But again, just anticipate that is something that can happen, and so you always need to prepare and have holdbacks with your rats, just like you would with your snake collection. So I'll show you a few of our holdbacks in a second. And this is where you kind of weed out some of your rats that bite or maybe don't produce enough. You euthanize those. And some of the mamas that have produced for you and have a good temperament, then you hold those back. And that is what we have started doing to increase our production. Another thing that I have noticed when your females are getting ready to have babies is sometimes things don't always go as planned. We just had a female recently that she was very much pregnant. She's produced babies for us before. I don't know what happened. One day I went into the tub and she looked healthy, ready to have her babies. And the next day I came in and she looked like she was dying. And I'm sure she was. She had some liquid leaking from her rear end. It was almost like the babies might have died inside of her and she was starting to get an infection, and maybe she didn't have enough energy to get water out of the little spouts inside. So one thing that I did to get her energy up so she could get up in there and get water is I give them strawberries. I give a lot of our mothers strawberries because of the water content, and also the sugar levels and the natural vitamins and minerals that are in strawberries are very, very good. So if you maybe have a pregnant female that's either nursing or getting ready to give birth and she doesn't look like she's doing very, very well, she might not have enough energy to get the food and water up top. So if you don't want to put food and water down in the bin for her, strawberries are a very good thing to get their energy levels up. So thankfully, It's been about 3 or 4 days since she looked like she was gonna kind of kick it. I've been giving her strawberries on a daily basis, and I've been seeing her energy levels come up. Now, I think that infection is still present, so I'm kind of waiting to see if she is maybe gonna either reabsorb the babies that she lost or if they're gonna pass. So, but so far things are looking up. So that's another thing that you kind of have to look out for when you have pregnant females. You do have to check on them quite often in the beginning. Another thing that I wanted to mention, one of those things that you don't exactly plan for, is sometimes you may put a male in with 3 females and maybe they've all produced before, but maybe for some reason this time you may only end up with 1 pregnant female. Doesn't happen all the time, but we have noticed, like, we just had 3 that were pregnant, were obviously pregnant. One of the females, I don't know if she reabsorbed her babies or maybe if she was just fat and didn't have any, but we had 1 female that didn't have any babies at all. We had that 1 female that got sick, and then the one just dropped her babies. So sometimes things don't always go as planned, and you have to plan in advance if you are feeding a collection to make sure you have either a supplier where you can get stuff if things don't go as planned, or keep a stock in your freezer. So that's what we have done, is we've kept a stock in our freezer for when things like this happen. And then there was 1 whole month where we didn't get any babies, and I did have to go back to our local supplier. So that's why we have kind of upped our game, because I am really tired of buying rats. I don't want to have to buy rats anymore. So just keep in mind that just like anything, sometimes there are hiccups, sometimes there are setbacks, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. It just means you kind of just have to go with the flow and deal with those minor setbacks. All right, so these are a few of our whole-back females. We've got 4 lovely girls in that tub that are just about ready to breed. Probably another couple weeks and they will be up to weight in order to breed. Let's see, and then we have 4 more in this tub as well who are just about ready. And we held these females back from several different litters from some of our mamas that produce big litters and have great temperaments. And here is an update on one of our whole-back mamas who had 15 babies. And they are just about big enough to be able to unfortunately euthanize. I know they're cute and cuddly, but our snakes have to get fed too. Well, hello there. And we will probably be holding back some females from this litter as well. Hi. And if you see, I got them these little things to run through. Gives them something to do. Hello. All right, we'll let you go back to sleeping. And this was one of our first time mamas as well, but she was one that lost a few babies and we only ended up getting 2. Hi, I know I'm not gonna do anything to your babies. But she has 2 little rat pups in there. Oh, you guys got your eyes open. Look at you. Hi. I'll let you go back and go sleep. I know, I'm bringing him back. If he'll let go of me. Where are you going? Silly? Hello. This one has really dug out her thing. Look at this thing. All right, I'll leave you be. So that is all the information I have for today's video. Now, if you want me to do a video on anything else to do with rats, or you have some questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. I will be happy to do another rat breeding video, but I kind of need some input on what you guys want to see or what you want me to talk about so I can answer those questions specifically. So again, thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful in maintaining and keeping up your rat breeding, or maybe if you haven't started, maybe this is some encouragement to maybe start your own if you got a large collection. So again, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay sane, get out there and make your own footprints. I'll see you guys in the next one.